confronted him about it and confronted him about how much I've always resented him for that and how much it actually has hurt me and how much I'm noticing my bad habits and bad patterns. And the reasons I'm failing is because of that. And man, he broke down and he was like, I've been wanting to say this to you for years and I just haven't had the guts, man, because I feel horrible. And at that point we came together, and my dad actually lives on a golf course, speaking of golfing. So I golf with him all the time. I mean, we do shit all the time. Great guy. He's like my best friend, but it took 21 years to get there. And it was because I just didn't understand, man. I didn't understand, one, what it was like to have to support a family, but I mean, to let alone have kids that depend on you and that expect you to be there 24/7. And it was tough, man. So I think there was a lack of a relationship just because he fell into the stereotypical
role
man,
of father.
I guess. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of I was trying to wrap this full circle with this, but do you think that because of that experience with having them split up when you were younger, did you think that kind of led to your being overweight when you were young and kind of resorting to food for comfort and sort of, I was trying to put your kind of puzzle together, and it seems like maybe it all came full circle and that started your whole journey out to become what you are today.
Yeah, I think that like, it definitely did, because so when they split up, my mom had to go back to work. And so basically it was kind of like one of those things where I have an older brother and they were like, all right, well, watch your younger brother, let him hang out with you and stuff. And my brother was like, oh, okay, cool. And then they would leave and he was like, get the hell away from me. I'm going to go do my thing, which was fine with me because I was like, hey, I'm going to roam the town and do whatever I want. And I ended up, to be honest with you, I don't know if it was directly because of that, but since I was kind of on my own and roaming and I skateboarded and I would just kind of cruise around town with my friends, we just ate McDonald's and candy every day, right? And it just led to a rapid weight gain, essentially. And I don't know if it was 100% comfort, but I can absolutely say that I definitely turned to food for comfort back in the day, plenty of times. And I'll even admit, like, and this is coming from somebody who's extremely healthy. I'm a fitness entrepreneur. I don't do any drugs or anything. I smoked a lot of weed because it was a sedation. So like food was a sedation. Alcohol was a sedation. Weed was a sedation because to me, like, I wasn't happy with my body. I wasn't happy with my life. I didn't have any direction. And it was a way to kind of quiet that noise and just like push it all away. And that was essentially getting high or getting drunk or eating food. Right. So, and this is the problem a lot of people have with weight loss is they think they can't figure out the right plan or they don't have the right supplements, but really it's deeper than that. And it's a mental issue. It's a spiritual issue. It's a personal issue. They are sedating some kind of issue inside of their life with drugs, alcohol, food, whatever it may be, bad habits. And that's what's stopping them from actually changing their life. So for me, food absolutely was one of those things. And then when you combine that with marijuana, as you can probably imagine, it's not the best combination for staying lean or losing weight. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it was a combination, man.
That's pretty awesome how it kind of, everything in life happens for a reason. There's that famous Steve Jobs quote where you can never connect the lines going forward, but you can always connect them going back. And it's interesting how stuff that goes on and you're like, why does this happen to me? And then you kind of can look back when you're your future self and be like, that's why this all happened. You're a little more wiser and you can put the puzzle pieces together. And I'm learning a lot of people have these issues that they go through when they're younger and it shapes them, or they don't change and they get stuck in a rut. And it's just the same thing, like you fall into your parents' pattern, and that's what I was kind of working on. Is I was going to go through the same route that my dad does. He's a golf course superintendent, so I've worked on the golf course my whole life, and I was going to fall right into that because of golf didn't work out. And now this podcast thing, I'm like, I'm a decent talker. I can talk to people about, stuff that goes on in their life. I should try to do this. So I'm trying to get out of the classic follow the path of your parents with the whole podcast and get out of the rut.
Dude, I did this. Yeah, dude, I did the same exact thing. And it's funny, actually. So my dad he's a salesman and he's in the oil, gas, lubricant industry, which, I mean, if there's one industry that's never going to die, it's oil, because we always need machines, cars, vehicles, things that are operating on fuel and lubricants. So it's a smart path. And he's a salesman. I'm just like him. One thing I crush at every job I've been at is sales. I can sell anything to anybody. I can talk for days. So naturally, my whole family was like, just do what your dad does. It makes sense, right? But this whole time, I'm like, I don't love oil, right? And I can't even I can look at you, Dad, and you're making good money, and it's cool. But do you love oil? Like, that's a weird thing to love. You don't love oil. So I was like, I need something that drives me. And I think once I found fitness, it was the first time where I was like, okay, because the only other thing I loved was skateboarding, snowboarding, or soccer. I wasn't going to go pro in any of those. So for me, it was like, this is finally something that I really love and I can excel at and I can make money from. And at the time, there was no online coaching. There was no Instagram wasn't a thing yet. Facebook just started. YouTube was podcasting was non-existent. So there wasn't these routes that I could take really. It was really just be a trainer and work long hours and you're probably going to make shit money, but you're going to do what you love. But to me, I was like, fuck it. That's what I'm going to do, man. Because that's the only option. And nobody, of course, my mom, because moms are always the person that's going to support you, but nobody else was really like, yeah, dude, you should go do that. Like my friends kind of laughed and were like, okay, dude, this is just another thing because let's be real. You've never wanted to work out. And I've never was in the gym before that. My dad said the same thing. And it was just like, I'm a big believer that successful people have a chip on their shoulder. And this is very common amongst entrepreneurs. There's a little chip on their shoulder and they have a reason to prove people wrong. Whether that's a good motive or not, that can be up for debate for a lot of people. But to me, it fueled me because I was like, I'm going to show these motherfuckers wrong because I know I can make something of myself doing this. I know it. And I just was relentless with it. And today that's what I do for a living.
Yeah. I was just talking to my girlfriend the other day about this and I was telling her it's not so much about proving everybody wrong. It's more like proving the vision I have in my head right. It's more of like proving myself right and showing everyone I wasn't just talking bullshit. Like I actually have a vision for what I see happening and I might not know how to get there and all the steps that I need to know to get there, but I'm going to figure them out so I can do what I want to do. Like the fact that you work from home and, I've just been following more podcasters and people that are online and own their own businesses. And it's, there's a certain freedom that you have when you just do your own thing. And I've been realizing more and more while I'm at work, man, I'd really like to have these 8 hours to do my own thing and not have to keep going through the same thing. It gives me time to reflect on what we were going to talk about today and stuff like that. I listen to all your stuff where you're reading blogs at the closet at work, stuff like that, where it's just that's my life. I'm on autopilot when I'm at work and I just want to think about how I can grow this whole business. And that's the main focus and what's driving me lately. And it's like you said, once you find that thing, you're almost you isolate yourself and you want to just do everything you can to make this happen.
Well, dude, and life's not meant to be on autopilot. You know what I mean? I'm a very firm believer in that. And I think that's where I was as well. The one thing, if you haven't read that book, man, that book changed my life as far as really trying to understand how to focus on your thing and just crush it with everything you have. That was huge for me. And just getting out of the norm of how shit goes, right? The autopilot is just not the, and on top of that, man, people will listen to your podcast and have a life-changing event happen in their life, right? Whereas whatever you're doing right now, that might not be something that's even possible, right? What I was doing before I got into fitness, I wasn't going to change anybody's life, right? It was just a means to an end. It was autopilot. It was just getting through the day. Whereas I did an interview for somebody at a college, and he was basically doing a project on, it was how rituals can build success or something like that. It was a entrepreneurial college university project. And basically he interviewed me because he heard me talking about my morning routines. And at the end of the interview, he was like, hey, I just want to let you know, I've been following your podcast for the last 6 months. It's allowed me to lose 35 pounds in 6 months by literally just implementing all the things you talk about and just kind of organizing them. I used your morning routine and the way you structure your week in Google Calendars to set up my day. And I went from D's and C's to A's and B's, and I'm getting on it's the president's list or honor roll or something like that in his school. And I was just like, what? From just listening to my podcast, I've never heard of this guy in my life. And he just reaches out, hey, will you do an interview? I'm like, sure, what the hell? right?
Yeah.
Because I'm always willing to talk and just do stuff. Same thing. You hit me up. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. But like, that's the kind of effect you can have on people, right? He's going to go through college leaner, more confident in getting better grades, get more opportunities. And it's all because he listened to my podcast. Like, that is what this shit is about. And if you chase that versus anything else, I guarantee money's going to follow.
Yeah, well, I haven't been doing it too long, but I've gotten a few like good responses and people writing me messages on Instagram, and it like almost makes me tear up. Like just hearing like the little stuff of me being vulnerable on the podcast and talking about hardships in life and growing up being dyslexic and getting made fun of when I had to read in front of the class and stuff like that. It's motivating to me to keep going on the path that I chose to go down. And I could only imagine that everyone's like, you'd make a great personal trainer, because I do get that sense of like it feels so good to help the people out. So I could only imagine when you've helped so many people, even like that guy's story where it's just he just started listening to you and it changed his life in 6 months and you didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, and I appreciate you coming on and talking to me and stuff. But the biggest surprise for me since I've started doing this was how accessible it is to actually reach out to people and get a hold of someone. Like I sent Adam a message and like, dude, do you have any advice for me trying to start a podcast? And he's like, well, let's podcast about it. And I'm like, well, okay, like I don't know how to do it off of Skype or anything, but I'll figure it out before we have to do it. And it was just then he spoke about you, and I'm like, I'll reach out to him. And then I started listening to your stuff. I'm like, this guy's perfect too. And then I kind of started listening to drama and started talking to him a little bit and just asking him like little questions. But it's amazing how accessible these people are, when before 5 years ago, it was impossible. You had to send someone an email, hope it didn't go into the junk mail file, and it's a whole different world now. But so what are some of the biggest guests you think you've had on the podcast, or at least talk to, and kind of keep going on your podcasting journey?
You know what? Like, so I'm a firm believer in just having like a mentor, right? So like years and years ago, I had a mentor before I even had a job, and then I ended up interning. So I worked for him for free. So I've been introduced to a lot of really big names in the industry. So I got lucky. Shouldn't say lucky, because I put years and years of building relationships in. But at the beginning, when I started interviewing people, I was like, I'm just going to write down 10 people that I literally can just text if I wanted to, that are huge in the industry, and just get them on. So in my industry, I mean, Kaiza Fit is a great example. She's got almost like 1 million followers. She's huge on social media and in the fitness world. She's on the cover of magazines now. She lives in Seattle. I hang out with her all the time. Like, we would go grab like lunch and just kick it. And so for her, it was just like, oh, you should jump on the podcast. So she's been on a few times, and we just shoot it right in her living room. It's dope. So Adam was on my show as well. Adam Schaefer from Mind Pump. Dr. John Russin was on there. I just had Gunnar Peterson. That episode actually airs tomorrow. Obviously, it'll be out by the time this goes out. But Gunnar Peterson is the strength coach for the Los Angeles Lakers and a ton of different celebrities. I just had Don Saladino. He's Ryan Reynolds' personal trainer. So me and him are good friends. I put him on. So I've been able to build relationships over the years with these names and get them on. What's funny is, like, you said drama. Are you talking about like drama from
Robin Big?
Shorts. Yeah. So
short story long.
He's somebody I listen to his podcast all the time. I would love to get him on someday. I'm a big fan of him and Rob Dyrdek from an entrepreneurial standpoint. Obviously, Gary Vee, I would love to have him on. I tried to do something to get noticed by him. The media guy messaged me back, but Gary wouldn't message me back. I had a bunch of people tag Gary in my post. But yeah, man, I mean, I've had a lot of opportunity to have a lot of really cool people on there, and it's just bigger and bigger.
Yeah. You like Rob Dyrdek. So I listened to Rob's podcast with Drama, and they talked about how he was just going up and asking for a skateboard. He's like, dude, there's no room in that car for that board. Like, can I get that? And he's like, I had no fear. And like, I'm like, that's the mentality you need to have when you're like going out. Like, I've tried to message Joe Rogan, and like, there's no chance in hell he's going to get back to me. But what if there was? So it's just kind of like, you never know if you don't try. And it's hard for me because I don't have like a niche, like you kind of have the fitness thing. So I'm trying to get like the best entrepreneurial advice that I can get, like while I'm starting out, and then I'll try to develop more of a niche type podcast